Hey, ew, ew. How we doing? How we hanging? Got a pretty laid back and low key show for you today. Wife is in there working out just outside the studio here, so kind of just gonna rock and roll until she gets done, and then we're gonna call it a night. But got a couple questions, couple statements, couple thoughts on roster construction, draft philosophy, some really difficult Cowboys decisions that are upon us. The toughest decisions, you could argue. We'll kind of unpack a little bit of those things. I got some player takes for you as far as draft prospects go. And then on something else, I need your help. I also have a couple announcements and then something else that I need your help with. I'm going to poll the chat here. Big Business is in the house as usual. What's up? Sadika, of course, another one of our constants up in here. KZ says, starting to think a lot of our draft targets are going to be taken earlier than 12. We'll see about that. We can talk about that as well. And I think some of the panic regarding who's going to be there on the board at 12 is a little bit overblown. And I think there's going to be a lot more offensive players selected. Well, I mean, a lot is relative, right? Because there's only 11 total picks that can occur before the Cowboys are in theory on the clock with their first overall, or with their first draft selection this year. I think we can start there. I think in my head, the Titans, I kind of unpacked this the other day, but I don't really know. I can't remember exactly how much in depth and detail I went on why I am where I am currently on the teams that are selecting ahead of the Cowboys with their positions specific, or I guess side of the football preferences as of this current time. Decisions shouldn't be tough with proper research. Fair enough. Fair enough. So I think, to me, it makes sense for the Titans to take an offensive player to help Cam Ward somehow, some way, whether they think that the best way to do that is to take the best overall offensive talent by most people's regards in Jeremiah Love and get him a running back, build around the running game, or build the running game around he and the rest of their crew, or maybe it's taking somebody like Francis Mauigoa, whoever their best offensive player is, whoever they have graded as their number one overall offensive lineman, they could definitely do that. I don't know which direction they lean as far as that discrepancy on offense, on the offensive side of the football, but I do believe that they're going to be taking an offensive player regardless. That's just where I'm currently at. I think the Saints are another team that are kind of going to see and invest as much ammunition into perhaps striking gold with Tyler Shuck. At least that there's some indication so far, just 1 year into this thing, that they may have found a little bit of something there. And it also kind of goes without saying too, in the same sentence, I guess, Kellen Moore being the offensive coach that he is, maybe he has a little bit more influence this year and can get another weapon to pair alongside Chris Olave, who really emerged and had his breakout campaign because he finally stayed healthy last year and finally had a reasonably competent system. So I think one way or another, and don't forget they traded Rashid Shaheed to the Seahawks midseason last year. So there's a void already at the receiver spot, but you could definitely make that make sense for the Saints. And then of course the Raiders is obvious, 1 overall. That's a clear cut. That's the slam dunk selection. And then who else am I missing here? Sadiqa reminding everybody, and I much appreciate her doing so. Please like, share, and subscribe. We did eclipse the 8K threshold, which was awesome. And shouts and claps to the chat, you guys in here, and the countless others of you who aren't currently in here that have supported this platform along the way. Those of you who are new and haven't heard me say this before, the purpose of this particular platform here is to creatively and objectively convey the sports below the surface truth for the true fan, where we often it's just almost bridging the gap between diehard fans that deserve to hear the truth and then mainstream media who, in many cases, will do a lot to dodge said truth. If it means creating interest, headlines, getting your clicks and your views, those types of things, right? So the sports below the surface truth about this current situation, and as the thumbnail would invoke a feeling of misleading value, or at least that was the discussion that I had with Attack on Cowboys yesterday. My guy AOC, for those of you that didn't see that collaboration, it was on his channel, but it's collaborated, so you can see both of our names pop up, but it doesn't show up on my timeline. You can go check that out. About 22 minutes, I think, was a 22-minute long discussion. It was fast paced. It was rapid fire, but I told him at the end of the show, after we wrapped it up, just shot him a text afterwards, and I was like, man, that was one of the most efficient but highly entertaining shows I've ever done. That's who he is in nature, right? Just one of the hardest working and most entertaining individuals in this this social media, or the sports media corner of Cowboys football. But man, he and I are both eye to eye in our perspectives on the Jackson Smith and Jigba contract extension situation and how that impacts George Pickens. It was just, we were synonymous and on one accord, but we each brought a completely different angle and kind of met each other in the middle, and it just made for a really fun, efficient, and highly informative show. We hope, and that was the feedback was amazing from you guys. A bunch of this community was over there in the chat, just kind of representing me and our side of things, just like saying what's up, and it's just, you guys showed up in a big way, and then his side of things as well. I saw a bunch of comments from his people, just all kind of agreeing and co-signing the same sentiment. So please go and check that one out. We're going to touch on, that's part of the discussion today, so we may hit on some of those topics, but it won't be delivered as on point as I feel like AOC and I were yesterday afternoon. So yeah, Mike, I understand that. That's certainly one way to look at it, but another way to say it is, if the Titans think that Jeremiah Love has some Christian McCaffrey to his game because of what he does as a running back and a receiver, then if he's, then that's a no-brainer, right? You take that type of talent if that's even remotely close to who you think he is, and some people do. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that, like I said, it's not a slam dunk that they do that. I could certainly see it being an offensive lineman as well, but either way, I think they go offensive, just based on what they added in free agency, right? We can go and pull some of that up. Let's go look at the Titans free agency additions. They were one of the bigger spenders too. That's all we try to do, man. We just try to make logical sense of things, and nothing is a guarantee. Of course, they're not unlike the Cowboys, who want to have enough pieces in place and address specific holes in free agency. That way you can draft free to a degree. But, they made the investment last year on Cam Ward, and so now it makes sense to double down on it, especially given, once again, the tea leaves and the breadcrumbs that they left us in free agency with their additions. So they brought in John Franklin Myers from the Broncos, cornerback Alontae Taylor. You know what? No, I don't like that. So Jermaine Johnson, that was part of the trade with Devondre Sweat. So they acquired him, basically swapped the defensive tackle for an edge. Pretty interesting trade, by the way. It's just straight up, like, young ascending defensive tackle on a rookie contract for young ascending defensive end or edge on a rookie contract, 1 for 1. Here you go, eye for an eye. It's kind of interesting. Of course, they brought on Solomon Thomas. there goes my camera. Feel like I'm still not quite in a rhythm yet here. Clearly, as the camera would certainly indicate. Get to that flow state here momentarily. Y'all just hang with me. See here. Where were we? Okay, free agency. So then Josh Williams on a 2-year deal. Mohamed Diabate, linebacker. And Jordan Elliott, 2-year, $8 million contract. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 additions in free agency, and they spent how much? Let's see that real quick. And then the next thing that I want to talk about, I told you I had a question that I was going to need some help from the chat. I'm going to let you guys kind of steer a lot of the remainder of the session as well after the fact. But I need somebody to confirm for me, somebody or multiple people, the report on Maxx Crosby and the 3 trades, because I kind of seen that, and I'd seen that trickle around the social media streets a little bit this afternoon or throughout the day, a couple different occasions, right? But I didn't really have a chance to dive into the source that was sort of responsible for that information coming out. I know Underdog, I think, tweeted it or something to that extent. Maybe they got the ball rolling and then somebody leaked the 3 offers that were, because Underdog is the first one I saw. They mentioned their tweet was Cowboys' best offer was X, and it was 12, and next year's 2. They said that was the most that they were willing to give, which definitely does. It's contrary, or it contrasts the reports for the last couple of weeks that maybe Osa Odighizuwa had also been involved as the 3rd piece to that potential trade puzzle from the Cowboys side of things only. And I don't know. So there's that. But what I want to know is the report about the 3 different compensation packages that the Cowboys offered, is that accurate? Because if it is, I'm going to make a statement and I'm going to connect the dots for you. And it's going to make a lot of sense about why this Maxx Crosby stuff isn't dead yet, despite what I know what Tom Pelissero reported today. I know what Maxx Crosby has said. I know his feelings about the fact that whole situation unfolded on this, I believe it was the 6th or the 7th year of his sobriety. And that was sort of like a revelation for him, or like an eye-opening moment of, hey, maybe this really is meant to be. So he's a thoughtful guy. He's a smart guy. And, I understand where people may think that it's dead, but let's crawl before we walk, and then we'll walk before we run here. Somebody let me know in the chat real quick while I finish this really irrelevant discussion about the Titans free agency spending on defense. But let me know if that report about the 3 different trade offers for the Cowboys is from a reputable source, and then we'll continue the discussion from there. So they're 2, yeah. So they brought on Alontae Taylor from the Saints and John Franklin Myers, like we talked about, from the Broncos. Those were their 2 biggest defensive acquisitions: 3 years, $60 million, and 3 years, $63 million, respectively. And then, of course, the trade for Jermaine Johnson. That was that's probably the 3rd key piece, you would say. But they spent $270 million in totality in free agency this offseason alone. So 9 new defensive faces and 4 new offensive faces. So that's what leads me to the conclusion of they're going to continue building around Cam Ward, as they should, give him either added protection or added weaponry to double down on their investment from a year ago. That's the sentiment there. We touched on the Saints angle. Hi, chat from Sub-Zero Prime. Welcome in here, man. What's up? The Ravens screwed that whole thing up. Okay, so I'm seeing T say yes, it is. I'm assuming you're referencing the homework that I asked some of y'all to go and do, and I appreciate that if that's the case. So thank you. Somebody says not sure how accurate. 3 offers. That's what I'm. Yeah, that was the report. Now, how accurate was it? Let me go see if I can pull that up here on Twitter. I should have saved that, so that's my fault if I didn't, or my fault that I didn't. We're kind of off the cuff today, so like I said, low key chat led stream, but discussing the difficult decisions that are in play here for the Cowboys. And then I've got a couple player thoughts, a couple draft prospect thoughts we'll elaborate on here in just a minute. Let's do Cowboys compensation, Maxx Crosby, and see if that pulls something up. Does anybody remember the handle or the account or the person who posted that? The 3 different trade offers? Latest. Filter it that way. Okay, here, maybe this has it. Worldwide sports update. Let's see if it's paywalled. No, it's not. Okay, so it's the CBS report. First offer. Here we go. Let me share this with y'all so you can read along with me. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you're definitely contributing to the show as always, big business, but you're literally taking the words right out of my mouth. And that's exactly what we're going to get to here in just a minute. But that's also part of why I wanted y'all to confirm that for me first before I went off on that tangent. And you're ahead of the game. You're ahead of the game. But I have an added layer that I'm going to explain here in just a minute once we can confirm it. Yeah, Sadiq, I know you are. You're not alone. You're not alone, and I'm sensitive to that. I resonate with that. I understand. Trust me. So that's why his name wasn't in the title, right? Because I didn't want this live show to be solely about Maxx, because I understand there's apathy there with that discussion. I just want to, since it resurfaced today, there's quite a few different explosive reports that are worth noting and touching on. I just wanted to readdress it briefly and give my stance on it, because I'm getting lots of questions about it. So I know lots of people are frustrated with it, rightfully so, but there's equally as many who are still very curious and invested. Maybe not quite as many, but still many people. What's up, Ben? One love, brother. Yes, sir. Had a good quick little catch up conversation with my guy. My guy, Ben Larimore. Had some fun draft discussions with him a couple off seasons ago, a little bit last year too, but he's on to bigger and better for his family. And I can't blame anybody who wants to do that. And I have a lot of respect for anyone who does. Side chick Charles. That's crazy. Yeah, so that was my initial thoughts right there. Sub-Zero Prime, right when it happened, it only made sense that the market's going to come down. Smash that like and subscribe, or I will hunt you down. He's got more time on his hands now. Yeah! Back in school, but not necessarily on the clock working for the man anymore these days. So Ben will hunt you down. My guy BL. Maxx is not coming. Okay, that's fair. If you feel that way, I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. All I'm going to do is offer my thoughts. You can agree or disagree all you want, but it's worth noting. And I see you, King the Kid, with the $5 super chat. He says the depth at wide receiver can make teams go defense early, unfortunately. I think there's depth at receiver, no question. But I think there's two very different types that are at the top and clearly separating themselves from the rest of the pack. And that's Carnell Tate with his ability to take the top off, and Makai Lemon with his ability to operate over the middle of the field and just be a demon after the catch. I think both of those two guys are the best at those two specific things. I think Jordan Tyson is probably the most well-rounded of the three, maybe the highest overall ceiling. But he's the guy that has the most question marks at this point just because of the injury history. And so I think there's going to be a significant, the Giants is another team that I just for some reason have a feeling that's going to be an offensive player for them. I know a lot of people swear that it's Sonny Styles. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just offering my own personal spin on it. But so to me, a team, so it's with the Giants, it's similar to the Saints discussion with Tyler Shuck and really the Titans as well, trying to bolster help on the offensive side of the ball for young quarterbacks that in the Titans case, they have heavy investment in, first overall draft pick last year. And in the Saints case, a guy that they feel like they have struck gold on with the Tyler Shuck selection. Where was he drafted at, by the way? Which pick? Just want to look at his contract. I know he was second round. I just don't know what the slot, like what that 40th overall. Okay, so 40th overall. What is that pick worth? Let me see. Tyler Shuck draft. Actually, I can just pull it up on Spotrac. It's not. It's already happened in the past. Okay, so that 40th overall slot was valued at $10.8 million last year. So second round draft capital invested in a quarterback who became your starter and your starter. Wow. Damn! My bad, Tyler. That's incredible value, man. So you got to take advantage of that. You got to, especially for them, that's a team that's been they're the team that most closely debunks one of the things that we live by around here, which is that the salary cap is it's cap hell is a myth. But the Saints certainly were the team that challenged that theory most significantly. But needless to say, man, it goes without saying to have a quarterback that's your starter that you think could potentially be, at least for the immediate future, the face of your franchise. He's playing for an average of, $2.2 million a year over the next 4 years. It's pretty good business to be in if you're the Saints, right? But the Giants with Drew Lock. Sorry, Drew Lock. What in the world am I saying? See how tired I am? Freaking Drew Lock. What is Drew Lock doing these days? He's backing up somebody. But anyway, Jackson Dart, Tate is your only first round grade. You mean at receiver, I'm guessing? Really, that's what you meant. I think you got those top 3 wide receivers pegged. Yeah. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. It makes sense to me. But I'm not counting out Tyson either. By the way, some team very well might fall in love with him over any of the others. But to me, the Giants, it makes sense you're giving Jackson Dart some help. Once again, a late first round investment, still a guy that you are hoping it's still a reasonable value relative to like the 30th overall draft pick, guys, just to be clear. Is that where he was taken? It was late. It was back half of the first round. Just refreshing my memory on all this stuff. See how we 25th. Okay, so let's look at the slot values last year. So the slot value for Jackson Dart's 25th overall selection was $17 million, just short. Whereas if you scroll up to the top and take a look at Cam Ward's slot value, 48 million. So almost say $49 million over 4 years, right? So that's a significant difference even then. Still the first round, but you got, do the math, 49 minus 17 million for Jackson Dart. That's a $32 million difference right there. Oh, Koye just mentioned. Yeah, I thought we were gonna maybe have a special guest tonight. If not tonight, definitely tomorrow. My guy Koye is gonna be jumping on with us just to discuss generally speaking Cowboys off season, and also, of course, we're 30 days out now and counting or quickly counting down to the NFL draft. So we'll have some draft discussion as well. LANDO and Okoye tomorrow night, so don't miss that. If you're in here right now, one of the 60 or so, and you're not subscribed, just real quick, take a couple seconds, look down, and make sure that you do that for us to continue helping us grow, man. We're pushing. The goal is that we just got to 8K. The goal is to get to 10K in the next 30 days before the NFL draft is here. It's going to be tough to do, but I think we can do it, man. So it makes sense for the Giants to get another either offensive weapon or add somebody to bolster the front. If you have a discount at the most important position in all of sports and you want to double down on your investment and try to capitalize on that, right? But then also too, it makes sense to just say for receivers specifically, I think receiver or O-line makes a lot of sense for them this year. But for receivers specifically, remember they got their guy, their dude, their stud alpha X receiver, and Malik Neighbors coming off of very significant injury. So you pacify maybe the stress for Jackson Dart, the offensive coordinator, the head coach, just peace of mind for the entire offensive system. If you add pieces to that side of the ball, but the receiver situation makes sense to give Malik Neighbors as much time as he needs, but then also just to help him out a little bit. Because remember, they lost Wan'Dale Robinson to the Titans in free agency, and that was a significant contract. The Titans clearly have big plans for him, and Wan'Dale Robinson clearly had a big year for the Giants last year, so there's a void to fill there as well. But that's also a team that needs a lot of help up front, just as much as they do anywhere else. But who knows? Who knows what they do? I'm just trying to paint the picture for you that I don't think it's as a defensive dominated top 10 as most have made it out to be to this point. I think there's a very real world where it's a very realistic possibility for 5 of the first 11 picks to be offensive. But I think the odds come down a little bit, but there's a chance, as we've just spent the last few minutes here unpacking, that the first 6 picks are also, or 6 of the first 11 could be on the offensive side of the football. And that, of course, just pushes defensive talent down the board, helps the Cowboys out. One other thing to consider, though, I just quickly threw this thought out there just for fun, right? Just for people to consider. Well, I know mock drafts are a huge thing here. It's not something that I'm ever really interested in. Ben Larimore, actually, we talked about him a minute ago. He and I, 2 years ago, we did one mock draft together, and I think it was either one night or 2 nights before the actual draft began. So if we do one on air, on a live show or anything of the sort, on here, it'll be the week of, probably the day or 2 days before. I see Sub-Zero over here with a $5 super chat. I want to say it was a great show you and AOC did together. I subscribed immediately after. Good work, bro. So did you come over from AOC side? If so, that's awesome. Let me get a
Yeah. What?
I appreciate you, man. Thank you. So I'll also say this. My wife and I did sell our house recently, so we will be moving on April 11th. And so we're waiting. It was already kind of in the works behind the scenes, but now since we're just going to put it off for a couple more weeks, that way we don't risk damaging the newest addition to the studio and to the Lando show. But all your super chats right now, all your support, all your likes and subscribes and just your donations, it's going towards the camera fund. We'll call it the camera fund because I know you guys are tired of, well, probably not tired of it. You put up with it as I do, but I'm tired of, I'll just say it this way. Like all my non-live shows, all my pre-recorded projects that you guys see on my platform is in 4K. But then this one right here, the live show stuff that we do, show you why, is in 1080p. So I'm just trying to make upgrades to the stream, man. And cameras these days, they're not cheap. But once again, it's a worthy investment. This little guy right here, I didn't do enough research. It's still a healthy, useful tool for me called the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. You guys helped fund that a little over a year ago. And it's been my best friend. It's been this platform's best friend ever since. So I'm grateful for that. However, I did anticipate being able to multi-purpose that and have it as my, on the go, just if I'm in the truck or if I'm walking the babies or walking the dogs or whatever the case, if I'm just out and about and there's news that needs to be covered and something I need to say, that's my tool right there. 4K internal stabilization, shoots vertical. Uh-oh. So we just lost connection right here. Is that the case? Are we back? Horns in the chat if we're back. Ben says Lando come back. Let me know if we're back. All good now. Okay. I don't know what just happened there. Apologize for that. Ben makes a good point, though. Many of those defensive players that so many people have in the top 10 aren't premium positions, and that matters to NFL teams. Absolutely. It does. Because as we just unpacked a minute ago, like just the discrepancy between, say, Cam Ward's draft slot valuation at 1 overall versus Jackson Dart's, albeit in round 1, but still 24 picks later. There's a, what was the math? A $32 million discrepancy there. So not a lot of team. Like, I think Caleb Downs is going to instantly be what? He'll be the second highest paid safety in the league, the second that he's drafted, assuming it is in the top 10, something like that. Hey, let's go. Big business. Hold up. He's dropping a bomb right here.
Yeah!
I see you, man. Thank you, first and foremost, for the camera fund. So back to my point on that. The Osmo, my handy dandy on the go camera production tool, it does support live streams, but on the reviews, I didn't do enough due diligence and look for reviews outside of the actual Osmo website, right? So like a YouTube review or some sort of Google review or just asking people in person about it. It does technically support live streams, but it's not, it doesn't have the capacity to handle more than like 15 minutes at a time. Otherwise, it just overheats and shuts down. We dealt with that a little bit last off season before we finally realized what it was. And we thought it was something to do with my computer at the time. But okay, so let's get to the super chat here. $20 USD from Big Business Camera Fund. Let's have fun and get everybody mad. Love is my 4th graded overall player, only behind Reese, Downs, and Maui Noah. Interesting. Okay, so you almost have the same exact top 4. So I was talking to Foots this morning. We're just, firing off a few different draft-related takes back and forth to one another, but we ended up, I asked him if Ruben Bain, so here was my question. I'll just read you what I asked to Foots because I think this is also a question. I can't remember if I ended up posting it today on X or not, but I want to ask you guys here. Where's Foots? Here we go. Is it possible to you that Bain is best suited as a base 4-3 edge, converting speed to power against tackles, or do you still prefer him in a 3-4 setting with outside linebacker and 4-eye flex? And he said he prefers the 3-4 setting with the 4-eye flex option. And I kind of tend to agree, but it just kind of made sense in my head. I was brainstorming while I was walking the dogs this morning when I asked him that question. Bain's versatility, man, like he's not specific. I've seen a lot of people suggest that he's just a 3-4 player because of his arm length. And I just don't agree. I'm not going to, we all have our opinions on Ruben Bain. So y'all know, you can picture his game, right? To me, it makes perfect sense that his ability to convert speed to power makes more sense because he's going to be, his bend for one is not a question or concern whatsoever. But guards in general, right? That's the power of your O-line in theory, unless you're the Cowboys, then the center is too. They're all a bunch of forklifts in the interior over there, but the center is the brains, the guards are the muscle, and then the tackles are the athletes. Like that's just kind of generally speaking, that's the way it goes. And so Ruben Bain's, the quickness is the athleticism, the bend is all there. So it's like, okay, how do you take his strength and make it a superpower? And it's to allow him to be powerful versus guys that are less powerful on the offensive line. So it's just alignment related discussion, right? Just kind of a nuanced take, but we landed on agreeing that he's great at all of the aforementioned. And it leads me to the ultimate conclusion with him and what I was going to, building off of Big Menace's take here is that Bain is one of my 4 top graded prospects. Like he's one of the 4 dudes that I would classify as a blue chipper. Just like a can't miss guy that I would trade up whatever it takes to go and get. And it's Downs, it's Bain, it's Love, and it's Maui Noah. So we were 1 player off. You have Reese where I have Bain. I mean, that discrepancy, by the way, I would have Arvell Reese up there too, but it's just specifically the reason why I guess the difference for me is the fact that I think Arvell Reese is best as an off-ball backer right now. His ability to become like the thought process of him becoming an edge, right? Just kind of picture what the Cowboys did with Micah Parsons, you know? That's best case scenario, but it's still a massive question mark. We don't know that yet. He's raw. He's a ball of clay. It's just it's football instincts, it's athleticism, it's everything, right? But it's a projection still at this point, and that's why I ultimately landed where I land. He is a linebacker right now, no question. Yeah, and so we agree on Bane. We agree on Bane. The point I was going to make earlier, by the way, I forgot to draw that conclusion. Just food for thought. Picks 92 and 112 can get the Cowboys up about 10 or 12 spots if they needed to. Okay, so that's worth. We did the chart out here. Show y'all the chart. I think it's 202 total points. So 92 and 112 right here. Y'all can see that. Ooh, hold on. There we go. So 92 and 112. Yeah, so 132 points for pick 92, and then 70 points there for pick 112. In theory, and it's worth noting that Anthony Hill is somewhere between, I don't know on the consensus board where he lands. I think he's going to go much higher, and this will lead us into my takes on a few players before we get out of here today and just get to some of your questions before we roll. But Anthony Hill is a polarizing player for a couple of reasons, and I alluded to some information that I was privy to that I've kind of held on to and haven't done any work on. Because for those of you that don't know, I also cover the Texas Longhorns during the fall alongside Inside Texas. So we'll get to that in a second. But the point I was trying to make is Anthony Hill, in theory, according to a lot of people's big boards, right? He's somewhere between the 60th and the 80th players on their board. Now, I don't know where the consensus board has him. I know that if the information that I had turns out to be true about why I saw what I saw on his film, and that'll be a thing of the past come, say, July, when the live bullets start flying on an NFL field in training camp, then he's at worst the 40th best player. Like he's a fringe first round player with upside to become one of the best in the class. I think the world of this kid. And a huge part of that is because of who I know him to be as a man, as a lover of football, his character. I'm very closely connected with a lot of people who have known him since he was 15 years old and have been really close to his family since he was 15 years old and have tracked every single step of the way of his college process and now entering the NFL draft. So in theory, just food for thought right there, 92 and 70 could get the Cowboys, say, to the late 70s or early 80s. If there's a prospect that they feel is the missing piece, they can go and get him. They can jump and go get their dude, potentially 10 to 12 spots with 202 points to play with. We'll get them from pick 92 somewhere into the late 70s or early 80s, in theory. Still am of the opinion, I said this to Foots on X a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now. Somehow, some way, when the first 91 picks are made, it won't be the Cowboys on the clock at 92. I think the most likely scenario is they end up, and this kind of plays into the whole purpose behind the thumbnail and And the title of the video here, of the live show here, is that I think they're going to bring a linebacker up in here. I think that's real. I think that storyline is worth monitoring very, very closely, because it's yes, it's what Nick Harris said. Yes, it's what Todd Archer wrote. Yes, it's everything that we said for, I don't know, like 2.5 hours worth of linebacker related discussions in the immediate aftermath of those reports coming to surface. It's all those things. It's the fact that the Cowboys, Christian Parker's preferences, right? Just what he requires. But it's the fact that they literally cannot enter a draft with the linebacker depth chart looking the way that it currently does. It's just malpractice complete. And I know, use your own favorite adjective to characterize the Cowboys front office all you want, but they're not this dumb. They're not that stupid to enter the draft this quote unquote desperate. And Vach so I pulled Vach the same question that we asked Foots earlier, and he just got back to me. That man's busy, so he's been working all day. He finally was able to respond, so that's cool to hear. He thinks Bain is best from the wide 9 allotment. God, I can't speak. I think a lot of people feel that way. That's just Vach's particular preference. That's interesting, and I can't say that I necessarily disagree. What's up, Angie? Welcome in. Bobby Wagner, I think so. Yes, I'd warmly welcome that, but he would be like 4th on the list of veteran linebackers that could easily be had right now. But the Cowboys have enough ammunition to go and acquire. But the point is, I don't believe that the Cowboys will be on the clock when pick number 92 is currently happening. After the first 91 selections, the Cowboys will have either traded pick 92 for a veteran linebacker or packaged that to move up to go and get somebody that they think is their last missing piece. I think that's a very realistic possibility. Just because, so this is part of the philosophy, the draft philosophy, right? And it's because what we know about how short this window really is. You need ready-made production right now, and you can't wait on the developmental factor. You can't depend on the guessing game, the guesswork, the prospect project plethora that is the NFL draft. Don't even get me started on the Cowboys track record in round 2 recently. Okay. I can very easily make that make sense. Why? Next year's 2 doesn't matter to me. If it means I'm getting Jordan Brooks, Maxx Crosby, whoever. But they're not going to enter the draft that desperate at that position. They can't. So get ready. You think post-draft, that makes sense? So my thing was, for the Dolphins, my initial, right when the news dropped, I put my thoughts out, and it was, okay, let's evaluate this. All-pro player, first-team All-Pro, by the way. So, and for those of you who are unaware of what that means, he's one of 2 at the linebacker position in the National Football League. That's not my opinion. That's the NFL's evaluation, the value of Jordan Brooks. All right, one of 2 right now. Yes, he's about to be 30 years old. Yes, he's on an expiring contract, 1 year left. However, extend him. Guarantee yourself an alpha, first team All-Pro, a one of 2 right now. Same exact logic behind the Maxx Crosby thing. Okay. But the point was, for the Dolphins specifically, right? Why would they trade a guy like this? Well, it's a clear and obvious fire sale. I don't have to spend time talking about why it is. They're starting over. Okay. He's going to walk next year no matter what. Okay, so you might as well go ahead and get compensation for him now. And the reason I say trade him before the draft, and feel free to offer your devil's advocate, or just like, your side of things, big business, for why you think it makes sense post draft. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that. But for me, it makes sense for them because it's a 2-year difference of when they see the return on that investment. So if they trade him before the draft, and they get in my theory, 92 and or next year's 2. And I just toss that in hypothetically, right? Just like the point was, whatever it takes, I don't care. And I can spend just as much time, if we have to, defending why next year's 2 would still make sense and be totally fine with me. I know a lot of people hated that, but I'll double down. I'll stand 10 toes on that all day. I don't have any problem doing that. And I can do it again here if anybody needs clarification on that as to why. But you get compensation for Jordan Brooks' services right now, this year, and start that reset button and pairing that with the rest of the first round draft capital that they have, and all the other, I think they have 12 or 13 picks right now. 6 in the top 100, I think, for the Dolphins. Doesn't matter, but they got a plethora of picks, right? They're offloading salary and trying to acquire cost-controlled young talent. So if they trade Jordan Brooks and get this year's 92 from the Cowboys, that's 2 years earlier than they would see the return on investment for him if he walks in free agency next year and they recoup the comp pick based on the contract that he signs in free agency entering the 2027 season, right? So let's just say Jordan Brooks doesn't get traded. He plays all of 2026, another Pro Bowl or All-Pro caliber season. He's going to be the most sought after off-ball linebacker in free agency next year. He's going to command somewhere in the $15 to $17 million per year range. It'll probably be a lot of contingency-based and like incentive-based bonus money and stuff like that, but still, that's not a problem. And that's one of the reasons why I say it makes so much sense for the Cowboys to go and do it, because you can incentivize the deal and make it work, but you're guaranteeing yourself the product. And then even if worst case scenario, you can't come to an agreement on an extension to keep him around for another year or two, then you also are the benefactor of receiving the comp pick as well. So that's kind of a different discussion. But for the Dolphins, it would be the difference of 2 years when they see the return on investment for his services, because the comp pick that they receive if he walks in free agency and signs elsewhere, that wouldn't be until the 2028 class. So just wanted to make that make sense for y'all for just a second. Yeah, and that's a good point. It's obvious, right? It just makes sense that he's a Texas Tech kid, Dallas native. So, okay, now, so back to the 3. Let's assume that report was accurate. Okay, the Cowboys did. This is a CBS article, so it's definitely got some credibility there. I just haven't done the legwork behind the scenes, so don't take it as gospel. But this is just a talking point to get us to try to contextualize what's happening right now regarding Maxx Crosby. Okay, 2026. These are awesome, by the way. They're not partnered with me whatsoever. I don't have any sort of sponsorship or anything to gain from promoting it, but these trips, it's just an adaptogenic, I guess it's called a lightly sparkling botanical, but it's got lion's mane, magnesium, apple cider vinegar, L-theanine, and ashwagandha in there. I love it at nighttime. It's a great unwinding little beverage there. But okay, so first off, for 2026, first round pick, 20th overall, and defensive tackle Oso Digizua. Okay, so the first offer, allegedly, 20 and Osa for Maxx. That was offer number 1. Offer number 2, 12 and next year's 3rd for Maxx. Offer number 3. (2026) first round draft pick, 20, so pick 20 overall, and next year's second. Okay. So this is where, let me just explain this for a second. The reason why I was actually doing this, and if this is the case here, somebody misreported it. So there was a tweet. That's why I was asking you guys if it was accurate. The tweet said that one of the offers was 20 and this year's 92. And the reason why that was significant to me, and I'm going to find that in here in just a second, because I just realized that article is completely different than whatever that tweet was suggested. What we have to factor in is that 92 wasn't in the Cowboys' possession at the time of all this negotiation. Right? 92 came after the fact. Oso Odigizua was traded after the Ravens rescinded their offer for Maxx Crosby. Right? So that's why I wanted to know if that report was accurate and that 92 was one of the 3 offers. So once again, grain of salt. I don't know what to believe. So next year's third is the truth. That's what I was getting at, West Texas. That's exactly where I'm headed. Yes. So it sounds like that's not an accurate report. The other tweet, like I'm obviously going to trust the CBS article here. I'm going to find it for y'all. Nick Herrera was the one I think that I responded to when I saw it. All right, I'm just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way, go through the timeline on my replies. Okay. So this is Dallas Cowboys plug. Here it is right here. This is what I was referring to a minute ago. So he must have just misquoted that article. That's my guess, is he didn't realize that the 3rd round draft pick said next year's 3rd, the 2027 3rd, and not this year's 3rd. That's my guess. But so these are the dots I was trying to connect, right? Second offer, 1st round, 12 overall, and then this year's 92. I was going to say that if that is the case, then we know that the Cowboys are still active and interested. I still believe that firmly. I was just going to use that. I was going to say this is our first real bit of evidence, and it's not just speculation on my part. But the speculation is also, it's rooted in logic, or me doing the best that I can to apply logic to the situation. And that logic in its simplest form, the simplest way I can explain it is, why are they interested 4 days before? Like, the Cowboys are on the home stretch, one of the teams, one of the 2 or 3 teams with the best offer. I mean, we knew the whole time they had the most to give, right? In a perfect world, the Raiders were after 12 and 20. That was never going to happen from the Cowboys side of things. All right, but we knew that they were right there. in the negotiation, closing in on his services 4 days before. Then all of a sudden, the Ravens rescind his offer. And then all the reports start to come about. Cowboys pulling out of the discussions. From the Raiders side of things, they're saying, we're content. He's a Raider now. And Maxx, of course, reiterating the same thing. And so it's just done, right? Just boom, just like that. Wipe the slate clean. All the hard feelings beforehand, all the momentum, all the talk, just the whole charade, man. Just like that. All those feelings just go away. The Raiders are now all of a sudden no longer interested in recouping any ROI right now when they're hitting the reset button with the 1 overall pick and Fernando Mendoza. All of a sudden, we're just good. Our previously battered relationship with Maxx Crosby because of the way that we handled the home stretch of the season last year with his injury. He wanted to play. We didn't want him to play because we're tanking for Fernando Mendoza. That rubbed him the wrong way because this is a dude who only wants to compete. He only wants to give it 100% effort all the time. Like the only thing he knows is being just a madman on the football field. And you robbed him of that. And that rubbed him the wrong way to the point of zero chance that they rectify that situation, that relationship. It's bruised, it's battered, it's done. He's turning the page. You further contextualize the disdain and the necessity to move on from Max's side. 6 coaches in the 7-year accrued seasons that he's had in his time there. 6 different head coaches, 1 playoff appearance, 1 playoff game. Okay, and then from the Raiders side of things, this is a guy who's 1 injury away from you getting nothing. You have nothing to show for him. You're not ready to win right now or next year. This is at best a 2-year process before Fernando Mendoza is like in that offense with their front, and everything is just like, okay, this is a team ready to go. They're at least 2 years away. And they were honest about that 4 days before this offer was initially rescinded. I see you, Joe. I see you, Seabass. So why all of a sudden, 4 days later, is it just a done deal, right? And it's just no deal's done. We're not. It's over. There's no way. That makes no logical sense whatsoever. He's 1 injury away. Like for the Raiders, who are hitting reset, okay? This is true for the Cowboys too. Yeah, Maxx is 1 injury away. And then, so it's like, what are you saying, Lando? Well, anybody could get hurt. Yes, but the point is, he's a depreciating asset because of his age. And his contract is to the point to where his age plus teams willing to pay for him, the market is so small because he's a win now acquisition. There's only 5 teams interested in his sweepstakes beforehand. Now everybody else has, since the situation went down, they've addressed their edge room. They've filled some of their voids and their holes in free agency and through the trade market, right? Through various different avenues, of course. But teams have they've bolstered their situation. Every team that had the capital to acquire and the void to fill went out and did something, except for 1 team. And I mean something as in a big, like a $20 to $30 million APY player who the Cowboys were in on, all of them. All those teams that were connected to the Maxx Crosby sweepstakes. The Ravens, the Texans, the Chargers, 1 or 2 others. They went and got him a big fish. The Cowboys, of course, traded for Rashawn Gary, but it's not one of the big fish that they knew that we knew. We have verifiable evidence now to the tune of 3 separate offers that they were trying to aggressively go and get this guy. Everybody else filled edge needs with the big fish. except for the Cowboys. And they're still the team with the most to offer, and they're still the team with the biggest perceived void. The one thing that we know for a fact this defensive front lacks right now is a guy that can get home quickly off the edge. They have quick pressure on the interior. They have run stop on the interior. They have run stop on the edge in the form of Donovan Ezeraku and Rashawn Gary. But what they do not have is a proven pass rush weapon that can get home quickly off the edge. And we know Max's prowess in the run game is every bit of that. And he's a better run player than just about anybody at the position. But all of a sudden, it's just done. 4 days go by, and everything is sunshine and rainbows. And the Raiders are risking letting a quickly depreciating asset. His value will never be higher. Next year, he'll be a year older. One more injury, and we're talking about the Raiders cutting him and eating dead money, as opposed to like another. Let's just say, God forbid, another devastating knee injury happens. Now it's cut and eat a bunch of dead money, instead of the alternative, which let's just say in the Cowboys case for the Raiders is pick 20 in next year's 2. Or some sort of contingency offer based on performance. $20 in next year's 3. That becomes next year's 2 if he plays, say, 14 games or has 10 sacks, or if the Cowboys win the division, or if they, whatever. Just get creative with it. But whatever you want to say. He'll be an Eagle post June 1. Man, if he does, that would irritate me. Yes, sir. So that was that was the whole point, is that pick 92, that's what I was trying to say earlier, Ethan, and I agree with you, is pick 92 is either going to be used on a veteran linebacker before the draft, or it's going to be used somehow, some way to trade up in the draft, whether that be from 12 to 10, whether that be from 92 and 112 to get up to 78, whether that be from 20 to get up to 18. I feel like somehow, some way, in my opinion, you do that with the understanding that you're going to also flip it for a ready now player. You're saving salary. You're like, the whole point was, this was one of the most alarming indictments, or not indictments, the most alarming points in favor of pick 92 becoming another proven veteran, or as an asset to move up or to go get somebody, right? They're not going to stand pat and pick, because you're taking a proven product, a $20 million player, right? By the league standards. But for the Cowboys, that was a positional surplus. That's pick 92. Or excuse me, that's DT3 on their roster. So you're taking defensive tackle number 3, Oso Digizua, and you're swapping it for one of 2 in the National Football League at the linebacker position in Jordan Brooks. Oh, and by the way, you're saving $13 million of salary in the process, or of cap space. Remember, Jordan Brooks, base salary this year of about $7.2 million. Also, of course, had some restructure potential built in with him. You could have been flexible with it. They actually were, right? They they ended up restructuring Osa, correct? I didn't dream that. 20 and 112 for Crosby. Sign me up right now. Do it. Anyway, I see you, Joe Watkins. Appreciate you being here, man. Thank you. So my thing is, big business, if that doctor panel found something that we don't know, they would have known about it before we knew how interested and close they were to making the deal happen in the first place. It would have been a done deal. They wouldn't have been in. They wouldn't have been that close. They wouldn't have had 3 different qualifying offers or competitive offers for his services. That would have already been settled. I didn't realize we've already been in here for an hour and 10 minutes. My wife never came and let me know when she was done working out. She's probably asleep by now. Okay, so they didn't restructure him. Yeah, that wouldn't have made sense, obviously. But for some reason, I was thinking that they probably would have. They didn't trade him. Yeah, that now that I think about it, that question doesn't even make sense. But anyways, y'all, this I guess we'll say let's plan tomorrow morning. I'll schedule it so y'all can see it. Let's call it, depending on when my son naps. You know what? I forgot I have a haircut tomorrow. Got to get my ears lowered tomorrow at 9. So should be done by 9:30. Let's shoot for like a 10:30 live stream, and we'll cover my thoughts on Jermod McCoy, Keldric Faulk, and Anthony Hill Jr. Like I said, I have some pretty in-depth opinions, and in Anthony Hill Jr.'s case, some insight on their specific situations that I want to discuss and bring to light, and just have that conversation with you guys. The old mop chop, yes sir, definitely time. Ooh, Bobby, what's up, Bobby Fisher? He says, brother, sign up for the Turks and Caicos tap trip. If you know, you know. Yeah, so that was one of my favorites. I'll never forget. I always remember telling my mom that was like the coolest place when I was a little kid, getting to go there. But yeah, it's definitely on. It's on the to-dos to take the kiddos up there sometime soon, man. And I appreciate you, by the way, for being in here. Thank you, Bobby. Yeah, so real quick, before we get out of here, y'all hit that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Trying to get to 10K before draft day. 30 days and counting. That's going to be a challenge, man. 2,000 subs in a 30-day stretch. I don't know. Let me see what this last month's pace was, and I'll tell you guys how realistic that is. Give me 1 second here. Pull up the old. Wait, can I not access? Dang, I guess YouTube doesn't let me access this YouTube studio while I'm live. Is that a thing? That's crazy. So okay, here we go. Okay. Yeah, so to get to 10K before April 23rd's draft, we'd have to about 4x this past month's pace. So we had 413 subs in the last 28 days, according to my YouTube studio here. I'm not sure how up to date that is. If that's like, I don't know if that's factored in the last few days, because we did have a pretty, the show we did with AOC was awesome, man. We saw we saw a subscriber spike as a result of that collaboration. That was well worth not just mine and AOC's time, but I think everybody who there was overwhelming amounts of positive feedback from it. So people most certainly appreciated that, and I appreciate you guys for showing up for us. That's crazy. Maxx Crosby, Cowboys conspiracy talk. Imagine that. It's wild. Givo trap. I think I've asked you this before a long time ago, and I don't recall what your answer was. You're not Garrett Vosberg, are you? Givo? I feel like you said no. What does Givo stand for? One of my childhood friends goes by Givo as well. But anyway, these y'all showed up for me. Is there any super chats that I missed real quick before we bounce? And while I wait on some of those responses, these are other ways and means of supporting the platform are below on the ticker. It's just I provide that option because some people like to circumvent the 30% share that YouTube takes. So every dollar that you donate to me, YouTube takes 30 cents. So the Venmo and Cash App options are, of course, a way to circumvent that. If you choose, it's just an option. It doesn't. I have no preference whatsoever. Obviously, it takes your dollar a little bit further for me, but it's just an option. Whatever you guys can and want to do. The membership option is also active, and I realized today was less structured than we usually are, but that feature is live, and you can check that out. There's some information there regarding what that brings you. The most imminent returns on that is just taking your support a step further. There's no content that gets put behind a paywall whatsoever. So I'm not doing none of that here. It's just offering for those of you that are willing and able to take your support a step further. That option is there, but there are some perks that come along with that. So you get the membership only access to the Discord. That's just the sports. We take the sports below the surface conversation like we're having right now, and it's just round the clock on the Discord. And you guys are holding me accountable. I'm holding you accountable. We're asking, learning, and just growing the community round the clock in real time. And you have direct access to me. All members also guarantee that their questions get answered, whether that's during the live show or after. Your membership badge will let me know like you're a member and that you've asked a question, and then I'll address those on the next show. That's on the next recorded show, I should say, not lives. And then also too, there's other things that we'll continue to cultivate. So two of my other passions that you may or may not be privy to or aware of right now, one of which is helping youth athletes. And for right now, just with my current family situation, it would be more so just like hey, give me some tips on what your thoughts are about this, or this. Like anything related to youth athletes in general, but specifically baseball, pitching, right? And then health, wellness, and functional strength. Some of the things that I came to know very well just because of my situation, sitting on a bus all the time, just being an athlete in general, right? The aches and bumps and bruises that you have to constantly overcome. You really have to learn how to take care of your body to live in that world. And so I had to get curious, I had to get creative, I had to get educated on all those things. And now there's just things that I learned in my 25 and a half years playing baseball until I was about 28 years old that had I known or had access to that information, somebody like myself helping a 12-year-old version of me out in the process, I would have been so much better off. So anybody out there, any of my subscribers, in this case, the members, you sign up to become either a labber or a lifer, you get my mentorship for the time being on my best advice, the things that I will ultimately tell all of my kids, my son in particular, about baseball. like the things that matter, the things that you got to do, and just let me just be a resource to help you. Just my way of kind of giving back to you for you supporting me. Let me support you and help your child or your son, your family situation about just youth athletes that need a little bit of guidance, a little bit of help, a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of mentorship. All right, and then also too, fantasy football when the time comes back around, that'll be another thing that we do. We'll have some fantasy football specific members only shows. That'll be the only thing that'll be put behind the paywall. Most likely is just having fantasy football specific conversations, because the longer I do this, the more people I have, like I'm talking friends and family, like immediate friends and family circle, asking me opinions on fantasy football. And of course, I love it. I love doing it. I love helping, but time is money, and I don't have time, right, to help everybody out that needs my help. So the purpose of that is just to kind of create an incentive for people who are truly interested in my perspective and my help, my aid, whether that be just consultation, draft help, or roster related decisions, waiver wire, all those types of things. We'll just have like a fun little, couple hours long per week, like either, 1 or 2 hour long shows a week, or just one like 2 hour show, maybe a Friday night live, right? And just kind of unpack fantasy football related stuff. So that'll be one of the other perks too. But for right now, you take your support for me to the next level, and it's much appreciated. We're constantly trying to level up. I told y'all the camera fund is active. You guys fully funded the soundboard for me last year, and that has been a incredibly useful tool for me. And just all the things like that just goes to show you, right? The thing, your support is constantly helping not just the community, but us, right? Just our production level is increasing with every single dollar that you guys give. And I know how important your time is, how little of free time people have. If you're anything like me, your free time is not free, right? And it does come at a cost. Just with life in the fast lane, man, it is what it is. But with all that being said, I appreciate y'all being in here and hanging out with me, even if it was an off the cuff conversation, one that was kind of just generalized discussion and just touching on some things that we have already previously talked about. But tomorrow at some point, let's shoot for 10:30 a.m. or so. We'll just have a quick discussion on Jermod McCoy, Keldric Faulk, and Anthony Hill Jr. I think you guys might appreciate some of the perspective that we have to offer there. All right. Remember, the prayer changes things, and the war is already won. I love you guys. I'll talk to you very soon. Tomorrow at 10:30. Let's shoot for it. I'll see you there.